Starting a business for the first time after 50, to some it sounds inspiring. To others, it might be completely insane. Some people will tell you it's the perfect time. I mean, after all, you've got experience and perspective, and you finally know what you want to do and what you want to stay away from. Then there's those others who will tell you it's too late, it's too risky, that you should be protecting what you've already built, not starting over in these golden years of your life. The truth is, it can be a little of both. It can be one of the smartest decisions you've ever made, or maybe one of the most stressful mistakes of your life. So in this episode, we're going to talk about starting a business after 50. Honestly, none of the fluff and motivational junk. What actually changes and what you need to be aware of and how to figure out whether this is really right for you. Hi, I'm Matt. I've spent over 25 years building companies as a serial entrepreneur and helping small business owners navigate the challenges and costly mistakes they run into on a day-to-day basis. Welcome to the channel, where we strive to answer the questions all business owners have using real-world, practical experience. Let me know how I can help. As I so often do, I want to get something out of the way right off the bat. Age isn't the risk. Stress and pressure is. What gets people in trouble after 50 isn't starting a business. It's starting one that demands urgency that maybe they can't afford. At this stage of life, the margin for error is usually smaller. You may have fewer working years left, more financial responsibilities, and a much lower tolerance for chaos and instability. Now, don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean don't do it and don't start. It just means you have to design it all differently. We're not proving something. We want to build something that actually fits the life you want now, not the one you had 25 years ago. Not everyone starting a business after 50 is doing it for the same reason, and that matters more than pretty much anything else. I usually see three very different situations. We have early retirement, we have someone who was recently laid off, or someone who just needs to reboot. After an early retirement or a voluntary exit, you're typically not panicked or desperate. You may want purpose and structure or just something meaningful to work on. This is probably the best case scenario because the business gets time to breathe. No pressure, no stress. Maybe you're starting after a layoff or a buyout or just a career reset that you didn't choose. This is where the pressure shows up fast. When the business has to replace income immediately, every decision feels heavier because you're not just building, you're surviving. And this doesn't mean don't do it, but it does mean you have to be brutally honest about cash flow and timelines. And then there are those of you starting a business because you can't do what you used to do anymore, physically or mentally or emotionally. You know, the work changed, the pace changed, or you've changed. That's often less about ambition and more about sustainability. You need to be honest with yourself on what you can and can't do at whatever stage you are in your life. In all of these cases, you're the same age, but each situation has very different starting lines. If you don't have a firm grasp of which situation you're in, you'll build the wrong kind of business and end up blaming age when it's not the real problem. All right, let's talk about money. It's a little uncomfortable, but it's a reality for all of us. Starting a business after 50 often means you don't have the same financial flexibility you did earlier in life. You may not be able to live cheap for a few years, and you want to protect your retirement savings. You may be supporting not just you, but your family. And all of those factors change the game. You'll need to have a solid plan on how quickly this business will need to make money, as well as a contingency in case it doesn't. You'll also need to consider your downside exposure and whether you have enough of a personal runway to sustain yourself if the business doesn't take off for 3 to 6 months or more. If the business plan only works if everything goes right, that's not a plan. That's a gamble. If this is your first time watching my channel, I want to stress that this is not anti-hustle. We expect that people tune in when hustle alone isn't working. And after 50, energy stops being something you can just abuse indefinitely. It's a little more of a finite resource. Late nights hit harder. Stress sticks around longer. And burnout takes more time to recover from. The goal here isn't to work harder than everyone else, but use the experience that you have to work smarter. The goal is to build something that doesn't require you to be on all the time. If your business model depends on constant urgency, long hours with no end in sight, or with you being the bottleneck. That's not a challenge to overcome. That's a warning sign. This part usually surprises a lot of people. By this stage of life, your identity is often tied to who you've been, what you're known for, where you worked, or what you were good at. Starting something new means being a beginner again, making mistakes, and not having that instant credibility in a new space. If your self-worth is tightly tied to being the expert, this can get emotionally rough. It's best to have your eyes open going into it. So the real question isn't, can I do this? It's, am I willing to be bad at this for a little while until I get on my feet? Now, this is where clarity matters most. You have to be brutally honest about what a win actually looks like for you. Is it income replacement or flexibility, purpose, optionality? Remember, not every business needs to scale, and not every business even needs employees. Not every business needs to take over the world. A well-designed small business can be incredibly powerful, especially at this stage of your life, but only if you're intentional about it. Starting a business after 50 isn't inherently brave or foolish, but it is in the design. If you respect the financial reality, leverage your experience, protect your energy, and build something that fits your life, well, this can be one of the most rewarding chapters you've ever created. But if you're chasing urgency and validation, or trying to relive a version of yourself or prove something to yourself from 20 years ago, that's where things tend to go sideways. As always, thanks so much for tuning in. I hope it was helpful. And if it was, hey, like, subscribe. I really appreciate a comment, or drop me an email. I look to those emails and comments for future topics. Now, take a breath. You've got this. All right, what's next?